here, and we'll get started in a moment. Looks like people are showing up nice and quickly here. This is great, and just give me a couple moments to get everything else ready, and we'll get underway. All right, let's see what we got here. What we have is echoing and stuttering, which I'm going to ignore for now. You know what? This is going to be bad if it's not working, so I'm going to stop MuseScore and see if just starting MuseScore again makes me any happier. But I've got my plan B ready, so don't panic here. Hold it. That will help right there. That might be the issue. I've got my backup computer all ready to go. So let's try this again. Still weird. All right. So it's going to be one of those days, right? But I'm not going to panic. Still not panicked at all. Not panicked at all. Share that screen. And over here, I will stop the capture, start the capture again. And one more try. All right. Heavy sigh. I'm just going to play the music and talk. So welcome everyone, and meanwhile I'm going to check out in the chat and see if people are having a different experience than I'm having. My experience is music is hiccuping like crazy, and I don't know why. And yeah, you wish that these sorts of things weren't the issues sometimes, but they are. So what I'm going to do is try flipping over to my other computer. And could someone let me know, is the sound all like goofy for everyone, or is it only for me? Because if it's only for me, then I'm not going to sweat it too much. Yeah, okay. Then since it's bad for everyone, let me just try something here. And try something else. Try a couple things here. All right, that's still weird. And input, output. All right, I'm going to switch over to my other computer. So just hang tight, and all will be well. So I'm just going to come over here and turn off this mic and camera and come to the other one. All right, and now let me turn off the sound over here. Good enough. All right. Hi, everyone. Just another day in the life, right? Another day. So let me get some headphones on, just in case that ends up being an issue. Okay, so here we are, and let's try a little bit of sound again and see. Oh, what the heck! I've got MuseScore 4 loaded up here. Let's hear some notes. That sounds better, right? Ooh. You're not hearing anything, right? You aren't hearing anything because I'm not sharing the screen, and that's fine. Let me just get right down to business then. We are going to go straight over to the contest area, and I'll tell you what I want to do today. Again, I don't want to like bias voting or anything, so I don't want to don't want to give undue attention to any one score. I want to just go through. We have 19 submissions, right? We have time to hear, a minute of each. And that's to give everyone an idea of what they're about, right? So that is what I'm going to do. I am going to come over just one at a time and hear these. So toggle screen sharing. And I guess I'll say entire screen system audio. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do Chrome tabs. So this is the one thing I haven't thought through, but this will be fine. Share tab audio. So we are now sharing this tab, and what I want you to do now is tell me if this sound is working for you. If I press this play button, are you hearing things okay? So how was that is the question. That's good? All right, so everything is good. We're not going to worry if my mic's a little off because I don't have my external mic plugged in, but we should be fine. If everything's good, then yeah, this here was Bernard Legde, who has created a version of this piece that is it's a chorale type of thing, right? It's in 4 voices, and some people have been commenting that, yeah, it actually probably would work sung, right? Now, the one thing about singing this is only the melody has all the eighth notes. Everyone else would just be doing quarter notes. So they would have to, if there were going to be lyrics to it, you'd have to figure out, are the background people just going ooh, 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 or are they kind of simplifying the lyrics and just singing every other syllable? That would be something to figure out if you did want to set this to a choir. But so anyhow, this is, to me, I'm not going to give value judgments on anything. I just want to comment about what we're hearing. And so, yeah, what we're hearing is a straightforward chorale interpretation of this. And everyone has done this in different ways, and that's really kind of a fun thing. What I'm not sure is I am trying to pop out my chat here because I had that working on the other computer, but it's not working right here, but that's all right. I'm just going to keep playing this one a little bit more now that we know what we're listening for. I'll just let it play out. It's a nice short one. All right, so just everyone's just done some really great work, and again, I'm going to try to refrain from, making value statements or anything like that. For anyone, I assume everyone that's here knows what we're doing here, but in case not, we have a you don't see me. You don't see me in the corner? Oh, okay. When I share a tab, you don't see me in the corner. Oh, well, that's fine. But, oh, well, thanks. Uh, yeah, that's interesting. Sharing a tab means that you literally only see the tab. Huh, I never would have known that, but apparently that's the case. So in case anyone is watching this who doesn't know what we're doing, we had a contest that entries just closed yesterday, early morning yesterday, basically. And the contest was to create a melody based on a given chord progression. So all the music we're going to hear today is based on the same chord progression in some way. And when I say in some way, I know some people took some really incredible liberties with this that are probably going to take some time to sort through. Well, how does this relate to the original? So some people have moved them to other keys and kept everything else the same. Some people have moved them to the other keys, but also done some reharmonization. And I think that's the case with Colleen's version here. It's in entirely different kind of vibe here. So I'm going to pause there. So, Colleen, feel free if people are here and you want to say any words about them, feel free to do so. But I'm just going to keep playing a little while longer here. It's a beautiful entry, and I really look forward to figuring out exactly what's going on with some of what's going on in that piece. But entirely different, right, than Bernard's, and you're going to see that over and over if you haven't been listening to them already. What you're going to find over and over is things are everyone has taken totally different approaches. I'm trying to close some apps here so we don't get so many notification bleeps and blops while we're running this. So there you go. I'm going in order, Joanne. So Bernard's is the one I played already, and then I just played Colleen's also. And I'm just going to keep playing because, we got time to play through. Anyone who's especially long, as I said, maybe I'll just play a minute or two. But for people who just have short versions of things, which, most of them are, I think, pretty short, we can just play them through. So here we go on Dan Cunningham's version here. All right. So yeah, this one is quite short, right? It just has the first phrase, but the phrase has been like, sort of modified rhythmically with these tempo changes and fermatas and starts and stops. And so yet another completely different approach to things. And it's bothering me that my chat pop out plugin thing isn't working here, so that I can't be seeing the chat while I'm doing this. But I guess I can. Can I access this on my phone? Yeah, maybe not. But I'll just keep switching over. I don't want to overcomplicate my life right now because enough problems in the world, right? Okay, so I'm just going to keep going. So the reason I'm playing all these is, well, because it's great to hear everyone's submissions, and I sort of made a point of not listening much during the submission process while people were submitting preliminary versions because I didn't want to influence the proceedings. And I still don't want to influence your thoughts because what we're doing now, if you're not aware, is having a voting period, right? So I and Abraham are each going to pick our kind of winners that will, between the two of us, will decide on the overall winners. But we're going to have a People's Choice Award, and the People's Choice Award is based on likes. So you can see here, I just went through and liked everyone's to make sure liking is working, but we're not. I've actually customized the way the likes are working so that you don't see how many likes you have or how many likes other people's have or who's liked what. I think you might get notification if someone likes the same thing as you, but I'm trying to keep it, relatively anonymous as far as that goes. So yeah, just go through these pieces. This is where they are. And actually, I should post this link, right? So let me do that. Let me grab the link to this. And just in case anyone's having trouble finding this, I'm assuming everyone who's here has probably found where these are. But this is where they all are. So this is where you can go find them, and then you play them and you hit the like button on as many as you want. If you really want to just say, hey, there's one that's better than all the others, I'm just going to vote for that, and that's that. Or if there's like, boy, there's 7 of them that I'm having a hard time deciding between, just like them all. It's, this is meant to be a low-key, just fun event, and so that's how this People's Choice is going to work. Now, Dave's posted a lot of in-progress versions of things, a lot of different things, and I did at one point, I think during office hours, see one of these lines that he was asking about, is it too hard to play? And so he's added these performance notes up front about what would be involved in performing the thing, and that's great. But let's just go ahead and hear the music. Sorry, Dave. Yes, lovely job, Dave. You've done so many different versions of this, so many different approaches. I think you found found some good stuff in here. And one of the things that's different about Dave's from some others, and other you'll see different people using different instrumentation. So Dave's very specifically done this for violin and cello as kind of a duet with piano accompaniment. And so for some people, it's like just a solo piano thing, or it's melody and piano accompaniment, but this idea of doing it as a duet was an interesting choice there. And I think we've got one or two others that used a similar type of approach. So moving on. So the next up after Dave's is Dean's. And so some of the people that we're hearing here, we've heard some of their music before in the context of the masterclass, and some people are like either new names entirely to the community or first time posting any music, which is great. Dean's someone who's been around since kind of the beginning, so we've heard a few of his pieces before, and let's hear what we've got going on this one. And another completely different interpretation from the others. I'm just, yeah, it's too bad you're not actually seeing my face here. You see all these big grins. You'd see me grinning ear to ear with all of this music. So Dean's gone with a somewhat more pop, jazz, funk, whatever, a more popular type of approach to things here, which is great. And lots of syncopation. I was laughing. I really wanted to start talking when the bass solo came in, which is a joke. There's all sorts of musician jokes, and probably most of you have heard most of these jokes. But one of the bass player jokes is about the couple that goes in. Different versions of it, but the basic idea is the couple goes in for counseling, and they're just basically not speaking to each other at all. And the counselor sends them to a jazz club, and sure enough, when the bass solo comes in, they start talking, because that's what people do during bass solos. That's the joke. So I really wanted to talk over that bass solo just to honor the truth of talking over bass solos, which is just a thing. Okay, so Dean really nice stuff there. And yeah, I did see your comment in there, and yeah, some interesting things there that you did rhythmically, and a couple things harmonically too. So next up we have Heis, who I believe was the very first person to have entered something and got this in within days, maybe even hours. I don't remember, but Heis is very prolific and got this in really quickly. So let's hear what this is about. And I'm going to skip the repeats on these in the interest of time. And moving on. And moving on. And again, moving on. All right, great job, Heis. And so this arrangement here, Heis does a lot of work with bands, right? Because he plays the trombone and has written for concert bands, and had this music performed, which is great. This particular type of instrumentation is one that's kind of near and dear to my heart, although actually I have very little experience in it. But when I played clarinet in high school, I loved this, because we had solo and ensemble contests, and I would play a clarinet solo somewhere, and I'd also do a piano solo, but I'd also play maybe in a clarinet trio, and every once in a while I got to play in one of these ensembles, and it was called at the time a woodwind quintet. it's really maybe more generally called a wind quintet because a horn is not a woodwind instrument, but it's typically treated by composers as if it were. In other words, the way the chords function, the way people write for horn, they often write for it as if it was part of the woodwind section, which is actually why I think horns go at the top. In an orchestra score, you have the woodwinds first, then the horns, then the rest of the brass. I think the horns are put at the top of the brass section because normally it's high to low, right? Trumpets should go higher than horns, but the horns get listed first, I think because the horns are often kind of grouped logically with the woodwinds. In any case, this particular instrumentation, flute, oboe, clarinet, horn, and bassoon, is a wind quintet, sometimes called a woodwind quintet. So Colleen, you've lost audio, but everyone else still has it, I hope. I hope everyone else still has audio. Everyone has done different things with this form-wise, and Gijs has expanded the form by adding some repeats and trying to make it do the things that he wanted it to do. And I noticed a lot of comments as people were working on their pieces. When I was reading the comments, I just tried to not get involved too much, other than when people had technical questions. And comments about the form being a little unusual. And the reason the form is what we might think of as a little unusual, and I'll show you the original if we have time at the end, is the original melody that the chord progression was based on had a pretty standard type of form, but Abraham had gone in and reharmonized it. So the same melody occurred several times. The same form measure phrase occurred several times in the original, but he harmonized it differently every time. And so then you are tasked with either creating new melodies over each of those 4 bars, or figuring out a melody that would work over multiple ones, or doing what Gijs did, is introducing some repetition. And the advantage of repetition, of course, is that's one of the ways we identify with music. So I did Gijs's piece a little bit of a disservice by not letting it repeat, because then we didn't get to rehear some of the material that he really designed us to rehear. So definitely, when you listen on your own, I encourage you to just let them play through, right? Don't do what I'm doing of just do this real quick run through, skipping repeats, because otherwise you're kind of missing out on that. So good. Glad that the sound is working for others. All right. So I'm going to move on then and move on to the next piece here. And the next version is from Graham, who is, I think, one of the later entries. This is another one that's a chorale style. And so it was Bernhard's version that came first. That was a chorale style. This is also chorale style. And by chorale style, we basically mean it's in 4 voices with the chords basically moving together. And yes, there are places where one voice has 1/8 notes and the other has 1/4 notes, but that's expected in a chorale. In Bernhard's version, remember, the melody was like mostly 1/8 notes and everyone else was mostly quarters. Graham's version has the 1/8 notes distributed a little bit more, so it's more maybe typical of actual chorale style. Bernhard's version is maybe a slightly different melody with accompaniment, but still in a 4-voice SATB kind of setting. So here is the chorale. So Abraham's original version, he did not want to share. So I deliberately, I play little bits of it, but I am going to come back to it at the end so that people can hear it. And then also it might answer the question of where did that melody come from? Because I did play a little bit of it once and some people said they recognized it. So when I play it again at the end, maybe people will recognize it. But I also don't want it to influence your thinking about voting. So I'm just not going to, I don't want to push on the original until we're all done. So in any case, here is Graham's version. Right. That's a chorale, right? I mean, for all we know, that's what the original probably sounded like. It wasn't that melody. I know it wasn't that melody because I do know what the original melody sounded like, at least for the first four bars. But I don't know the original arrangement either, but it may well have been a chorale style very much like this. This is a very convincing representation of a chorale that, feels like something Handel might have written. So, uh, so that's what's going on in this version here. It has the traditional chorale style going for it. So moving on, Humble New Music's version here was actually one of the last ones posted, and it's very different in a couple of ways. And so one way is all we see is the melody. We don't see the chords, but we're going to hear them. And he played them on the piano, right? So this isn't going to be MuseScore playback. We're going to hear a live playback, and it's a little quieter than everyone else's. And that's just because it was recorded quietly. And I would say, Humble Music, if you're doing this in the future, after you record the audio, you might want to normalize it. Probably whatever program you're using to record has a normalization function. Normalizing just takes all the audio and raises the level so that the peak, the loudest point is at 0. It's a technical thing, but it's how the audio is supposed to work, where the loudest point in the piece is the same as everyone else's loudest points. This is how music is usually presented for the radio and anything else where you're going to hear music back to back to keep them at a consistent volume level. So that's it says screen goes black and comes back. Well, that's because I'm coming back here to check the chat, Joanne. Every time I come back to check on the chat, I'm going to be looking at the chat window. So in any case, it's going to be a little quieter, and I don't think, even if I turn up my speaker volume, I don't think it's going to change your volume, but if it does, we'll find out. So let's hear this version here. Another fantastic job. And this is everyone is so different in how they're approaching things. And yeah, that was a very romantic in the, musical sense of, harkening back to late 19th century as opposed to harkening back to Handel or Bach's time, right? So it had the character of being a romantic era piece, or really it kind of felt movie theme ish to me as far as that goes. And I could hear the original harmonies pretty clearly in there, but also could hear that I don't know how much of it was reharmonized versus just fiddled with rhythmically. Maybe I think he took some chords and extended their duration, others and compress. I'll have to go in and, or maybe I won't even have to, but if I wanted to understand, I would have to go and compare to the original chord progression to understand everything that actually happened in there. But yeah, great job. So let's move on. So we are going in alphabetical order here, and as it works out, we are, I think, basically almost halfway through. And I might have to get more selective. What the heck? I don't have anywhere else to be until later this afternoon, so I'm just going to keep playing them because I think I probably should. If I play some, I should play them all. So we're going to hear Jim's. Now, Jim's is totally different in that he has chosen to take each section and just set it as a separate piece. So depending on how that goes, we might play pick and choose with this one. But I'm just going to let things run, and if it goes long, it goes long. The video will be there, and you can all check it later. And you can all just check out the music on your own. But you all wanted to listen to all this music anyhow. So if you don't have the time now, come back and listen later. But I'm just going to sit here and play them all. Nice. In the comments at the beginning, he's talking about the fact, and in the titling, the non sequiturs, looking at this as separate movements, and so it's not necessarily meant to be played all the way straight through like it just went, but it does. He says there is no pause between sections, play through without stopping. So okay, that is what it says. I couldn't remember if it said that or if it said that you should actually think about them, a pause between them. But there's a whole story that's going on here, and definitely highly recommend checking out anyone who's included any text with theirs to explain things about it, to go ahead and do that. So moving on, Joanne. So Joanne, I know you had gone a while thinking you weren't going to find time to do this, and stayed up late not last night, but a few nights ago to get this done. And so I'm so glad you did. And here is Joanne's piece here. All right, great job, Joanne. I know that you had mentioned also you posted a version with lyrics because you originally kind of set it with lyrics and then were arranging it and then did a version without the lyrics, and that's the submission. So, but I know there's lyrics in mine, and people can feel free to check out that version also. By the way, Joanne was one of the people who asked about that diminished chord that I talked about, I think, last week. This right, that A diminished going to B flat, or in the original key, I think that was D sharp diminished going to E, right? But that's what that chord is there, and Joanne had asked about it, and I think the way you chose to handle that sounds exactly like what that is supposed to sound like there. So, yeah, this is another really nice version for basically vocal lines, presumably if there's going to be lyrics, or could be any couple instruments, piano and cello. So we've gotten cello involved on a few of these. Okay, so I'm going to move on. And next is Kika. And Kika has occasionally posted some music that we've gotten to listen to, but we really haven't heard full pieces so much, I don't think. If I remember correctly, you're a trombone player. Although I'm doubting myself now, so you might want to remind us if you're here. But this is perhaps the first kind of completed sort of conventional song form kind of piece that we'll be hearing, because some others had kind of an improvisatory kind of aspect or other things going on. This is I'm looking forward to this. Wow. So this is you definitely have a style going, right? It's like a totally unique way you have of approaching music where you can take a chord progression that we've heard a whole lot of different ways, but all of them maybe had a certain conventional aspect to them, and yours is has a different sort of convention that is your style, and I applaud that. I do wonder if you're intending that the pianist would actually play these chord symbols, if they're just there for our reference so we understand what's going on harmonically, or if you would expect the pianist to actually play with those, play accompaniment with those chords. I'm sort of thinking maybe not, because so much of this stuff involves the pianist actually playing in their left hand, which doesn't give as much opportunity for accompaniment. You can accompany chords in your right hand while playing a melody in your left hand, and maybe that's what you intended, or maybe they're just there for reference. But I think it's quite effective unaccompanied, especially at the beginning. And then it was really effective then when the flute comes in. So yeah, totally different approach, and everyone's is different in some way, and some are differenter than others, perhaps. Because some of them I can relate to others, right? And say, oh, well, two of them were both chorale style, or this one, we had Gijs's piece, which was a wind quintet. This one is a string quartet. So 4 instruments from Luke, and I'm just guessing on pronunciation, sorry. So this is also what we would call chamber music, in that it's not a large ensemble. It's a small ensemble of independent instruments, so it, in that sense, is relatable to Gijs's version. So let's hear what Luc has here. Yeah. So this is a new name for us in the community. I don't think we've heard any of your music before, but I love hearing this. And yeah, the treatment of the string quartet is really nice. The contrast with the arco and the pizzicato, as Dean mentions in the comment here. So just lots of nice things there. So Kika, yeah, no, I that's great. If the piano is not playing chords, then that's fantastic. So yeah, in the string quartet here, it's nice because you've got, like, if you think about those chorale style ones, there were 4 voices, but they were more linear, right? More vertical, I should say, right? That's what a chorale is. 1 note at a time, everyone having more or less the same rhythm, other than, maybe an 8th note here, an 8th note there. This is more contrapuntal, where everyone has different parts going on. So whether you're writing a chorale in 4 voices, you could write for 4 voices and have them be contrapuntal, or you could write for 4 strings and have it be a chorale. The type of instrumentation doesn't in itself determine how you should treat them rhythmically, but there is a sort of a common convention that if you're going to write for 4 voices, you give them similar rhythms, and if you're going to write for 4 strings, you might give them more counterpoint. But that's you can totally have contrapuntal voices. You can totally have chorale style strings also. So anyhow, I'm just giving random comments in here so y'all maybe learn something or hear something that you haven't thought about before as we hear all this music. But great job, and we'll just keep going. So so here's another totally new Odysseus, I don't know how we're going to say your name, Odysseus. I know it's also spelt with an A there instead of a Y in other things. And so this version here was done and then uploaded to YouTube. And that's what we're actually going to hear is a YouTube video, but it shows the score as we go along also. And so looking forward to checking this one out. And I might have to skip on this one. I forget. Now 3 minutes. We'll just play. All right, that is fabulous, and it's absolutely like unique as far as like a totally different vibe than anything else. And of course, it's not just a different vibe, but obviously reharmonized further, right? Because that's essentially in a minor key. I recognize some of the chords, and it will be interesting to go through and try to figure out what's actually going on. So actually, if you're watching this, or if you watch this later, Odysseus, or however we say your name, you might want to put in some comments and help us understand, what you've done to adapt that chord progression. And Colleen, if you come back and watch the rest of this, you might want to do the same, because you are the two that have taken the most obvious liberties with the chord progression itself, and you really created something totally unique and new with it, which is great. Love it. But it would be wonderful to understand more about what you've done. All right. So here is another relative newcomer to the community and the proceedings. I don't know, new to the community or just new to the masterclass. But in any case, Paolo. Great job. So I always love hearing new music from new people that I'm not familiar with. And actually, so even though I usually butcher people's names if I try to pronounce things, I think, assuming that this is Portuguese, I'm going to give my best on it. Okay, Paulo, J, Tarshu, Paixão. That's how I'm going to say this. And then someone can tell me if I came close. But in any case, yeah, we have another kind of instrumental duet. So this is kind of more hearkening to Dave's version, which was two instruments, in his case, two stringed instruments with piano accompaniment. This is just the two wind instruments with some amount of counterpoint and some stuff going on that's indicating these chords without having to play the chords specifically. So there's no chordal accompaniment, but we can hear the chords being implied through the actual notes being used here. So quite effective as a duet in that sense. Okay, Rod is someone who has participated in a couple of my online courses, and I've heard some of his exercises and things, and he's got some comments in here about some changes he made as a result of comments that were made in the masterclass earlier. And so anyhow, let's hear what Rod's got going here. Okay, and I assume it's actually over at the alternate endings. Okay, I think I will skip on the alternate endings in the interest of time. But Rod, really nice stuff here, and I love that you've marked it up and told us what you're doing in the places where you've made modifications. And one of the nice things that Rod has done here is even with just a four voice piece, right? It's like oboe and three strings. He's managed to go through and create these different textures by sometimes having it be just oboe and cello, and sometimes having it be the full ensemble, right? So he's created different textures within just a 4-voice, a 4-instrument piece. So really nice stuff going on there with what's going on. And so, yeah, I'm just going to keep playing these because, yeah, even if you've got other things to do, you could be listening to the music while you're washing dishes or whatever else, or you can come back and do this later. I feel like it's just worth my time, certainly, to go through and just continue these. And we're hitting towards the end of this, although some of the ones that are left, I think there's a couple of the longer ones that are left, perhaps. So Stephen Pierce is someone who's a newcomer to MuseScore. And as I recall, Stephen, you said you composed this in Cakewalk and used the notation features there and then used Microsoft Paint to add in some slurs and other markings. So we don't have a MuseScore version of this. There's a Music XML file that's not, it's really just a MIDI file that's been converted to Music XML, I think is what's happened. And so getting that into MuseScore is going to take some work, but I kind of want to undertake that and see what's involved in fixing that up if we can. But for what we can do now is I'll start the playback, and then we will watch the PDF as it goes by. And then it repeats, but I'm going to skip to the end so we hear the second ending. So we hear the piece actually end. I think I'm going to. There might be some extra silence at the end of this piece. Well, I'm not going to worry about it. There we go. So there's the end. All right. So really nice. And this is very much like, very much instrumentation-wise like Dave's, of a couple strings with piano accompaniment, but a different type of feel to it. And I think it's, really nicely constructed. And so, yeah, definitely I recommend you do the way I did it here. Start playing back. And yeah, there's apparently a couple minutes of silence at the end of this for some reason. But just, press play on the MP3 and then pop open the PDF and just follow along with the PDF while you listen. And so it's really not that much harder than following along with one of the MuseScore versions. So definitely don't let that get in your way. And same with Odysseus's version with the YouTube video. All right, Stephen Smith's version now. So Stephen has, as I recall, is a melody with chord symbols. And so when I press play on this, we're going to hear what I think are MuseScore's playback of those chord symbols. And It's going to make it a little bit hard to actually hear the melody because the chords are, MuseScore is not smart enough to keep the chords out of the way of the melody. So the chords are sometimes higher than the melody. So in hearing this, try to think about that melody as a separate thing, and maybe we could try downloading it and doctoring it up to try to change the playback around a little bit. But I'm just going to let it play as is. Start it over. I'll let it play as is, and we'll just. I might have to pull my recorder out for this. We'll see. Yeah, so we're only hearing the chords. We're not hearing the melody at all. So I'm just going to do my best to play along with this. Okay. Actually, I'm going to see if I pull up this mixer. Does it let me, if only available, let's try this. Does it let me, yeah, there's only the one instrument, so that's not really going to help. But I just want to see what happens. Has anyone else been playing with this? And here we go. All right, this is doing the job for me. So maybe when you hear it on the website, it's going to be fine. So now I don't have to play the recorder. By the way, this is my father's recorder. He didn't play music at all, but he did go. He and my mother went on a trip. They went to the Von Trapp family music camp place in Vermont, I think it is, and took some recorder lessons, and that was like decades ago, but still had the recorder, and so I inherited that. All right, so let's see if there's any comments. But now that I've done that adjustment there, I think we're going to hear the playback with the instruments. All right, great. I'm glad we figured that out. So what I did is I clicked here, that mixer icon here, and I went here to audio sources and turned synthesizer on. How did I know that was going to work? Frankly, I didn't. But it just I know that's a thing, and I thought it was going to give me a mixer that let me maybe change the instrument sounds or something. It didn't, but whatever. But the actually try to play the melody along yourself or sing it or whatever makes you happy. So in any case, it's definitely possible to hear the melody on that version, and I'm glad that I got that going there. All right, 2 more to go. So Toltec strings, I assume is a handle, and don't know the name involved, but here again is a melody with chord symbols. And as I recall, this one just plays normally off the bat. All right, great job there. And this is also someone who I haven't heard much music from before, and so it's always good to hear new people and what they're doing musically. And I do have to say about that diminished chord there. Here, some people have chosen to kind of ignore that diminished chord. Some people have chosen to embrace it in different ways. This to me is one that stands out as like, yeah, that's what that diminished chord was supposed to be about. So I like how that final diminished chord worked in this version here. Okay, so the last entry here that was in, there was one entry that came in afterwards, and I definitely encourage people to check it out. I'll probably add it to the list later so people can listen, even if I say, well, it didn't quite come in time, because I don't want to be unfair about that. But there's one other that came in later, and if other people submit later, I'll add them to this list. I'll just put them at the end. But Trevor's version is in a way reminiscent of Odysseus's version, in that it's really largely reimagined, maybe in ways that are more obviously connected to the original. But in any case, it is a work unto itself, and I hope you enjoy. It starts quietly. Yeah. And good night, Rod. Hope either you went to bed before the loud part, or the quiet part put you back in the space that you were before the loud part. So yeah, obviously a large, kind of reimagining of a lot of things going on. It'll take some time to dig into what's going on with that one too, but very impressive work, Trevor. We've heard some of your music before. You also have a very you know unique and identifiable style, and that's totally you while also being totally that chord progression. So, yeah, I mentioned that I would play the original piece when I'm done, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that because we've gone long enough. And let's just stick with the music that you all have created. I will do something else where I will share you the original version some other time. So thanks, people who have been hanging out here with us. And I will uh, be thinking about this and coming up with my ideas of who I want to recognize with the special awards, and we'll talk to Abraham about that also. Now that you have all heard all the music, hopefully you can be deciding for yourself which ones you want to like and give recognition to that way, and there will be a People's Choice Award from that, and you're all winners, right? You all took part in this and really pushed yourselves and did some great things, and I think you all have a lot to be proud of, and hopefully are all learning from each other as well. So thanks so much for participating in this and for hanging out with me as we check out all the great music that you all have produced. Yeah, I'll be thinking about it over the coming week. I'll announce the winners next week and maybe bring those people on to talk more about their music if possible. And again, thanks everyone, and I will see you all the next time. So thanks. So I will talk to you later. Goodbye.